What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, and today I'm going to make the case for why Vigil is probably one of, if not the most, underrated defenders in Rainbow Six Siege right now. Now, you might be thinking that Vigil is somebody who has a pretty high pick rate, so how could he be underrated? And you'd be correct in saying that because if you take a look at the win delta right now, you can see Vigil does in fact have an above average pick rate. The thing that I want to point out, though, are two defenders that have a higher pick rate than Vigil that received recent nerfs. That is Mozzie and Jager. And I think that Vigil should be eating into their pick rate substantially right now. And I'm going to explain why as we go through this video. Now, before we get into my reasoning, let me just make this statement right now. If you are somebody who has played a lot of Jager over time and you're uncomfortable with the fact that he's now a 2-speed, if you're somebody who played a lot of Mozzie and you're uncomfortable with the fact that he no longer has his super shorty, I think Vigil could be somebody who could fill that role for you. I'm not going to say that Vigil should replace Jager all the time. Obviously, Jager's ADS, that utility, is important for the team in many situations. But if you are somebody who is picking Jager more for his gun and his 3-speed roaming capabilities than the utility, then I think Vigil will be a better pick for you now. Now, what started me on this thought process with Vigil is a recent Logic Bomb podcast. And anybody who's not familiar, I take part in a podcast about Rainbow Six Siege. It's called the Logic Bomb Podcast with Prodigio, Pete, and Zeronic. I'll link the episode I'm going to refer to down in the description if you want to go check it out. But our last guest was Matt Lacombe, and he's a game designer for Rainbow Six Siege, and he specializes in weapon balance. And he came on and dropped a lot of really useful information about weapon attachments and stuff like that. But one of the things he showed us was the top 5 performing weapons on attack and defense. And on defense, I was very surprised whenever he said that the K1A is actually tied for second in top performing defender weapons. Now, their stats that they're using to judge these are kills per round, which it gets, I believe 0.79 was the number that it got as far as kills per round, and a KD of 1.2 when Vigil is using that weapon. Just to give you a frame of reference, the first place gun on defense was the 416C of Jager, and his kills per round was 0.8, and I believe a 1.2 KD as well. So really, really close between the K1A and the 416C there. And those stats were before the Jager nerf down to 2-speed. To throw another stat out, I mentioned Mozzie earlier in the video. His actually the 5th ranked weapon, okay? So no doubt about it, the 416C, the K1A, and the Commando all rank pretty high as far as defender weapons. But here with Vigil, you have the K1A that's performing well. You have it attached to a 3-speed operator who also has impacts available. Now, the impacts are really important now because, again, I'm talking about Mozzie. Losing that super shorty, it's really affected me picking Mozzie. A lot of times I was picking Mozzie, I was picking him because I wanted to use the shotgun to open hatches or do something with that destruction. And Vigil can now serve that role for me in a lot of ways. You don't get, obviously, the drone denial for the whole team with Vigil, but you do get drone denial kind of for yourself with the way that Vigil's gadget works. So I think that Vigil is an excellent substitute for Mozzie. If you are being, persuaded to not use Mozzie because of that super shorty being gone, if you're missing that super shorty, Vigil can step right in there. And although you only get 2 impact grenades, it a lot of times for me is still accomplishing the same thing I was with the Mozzie shotgun. So hopefully I've made a good case for you now for why Vigil can be a good substitute for either Jager or Mozzie. Now, obviously that depends on what utility your team needs. If the drone denial of Mozzie is really important to your team setup, of course, Mozzie is probably going to be brought. If the ADSs are really important to your team setup and nobody else is going to go Jager, of course, Jager should be brought. But there's going to be many, many situations that you can look at in game where neither of those two factors are going to exist, and the better pick is probably going to be Vigil. And I think that people who make the claim that Vigil doesn't bring any utility, I don't think that's true. If you keep in mind that when you are roaming, one of the most important things you can do is waste time. Vigil's gadget and the way that he can disappear from drones is a time waster. No doubt about it. If you are on the attacking side and you're droning out trying to enter the map and you see the Vigil indicators, it makes you nervous. It makes you hesitate. It makes you take more time than usual. And especially when you can't figure out if he's on the top floor or the bottom floor, that is where it really starts throwing people off. Whenever, you're seeing the visual indicators, but you don't hear any sound. You don't know where he can be. And that is utility. That's not only helping you as a player, and where your location is, but it's also helping your team. If you as a roamer can waste a lot of time, you're helping your team. And I think this is especially true in the gold ranks and below. And the data actually backs that up. Another thing that Matt told us on the podcast was if you change the rating criteria for players selected for that data, instead of using platinum and above, if you use gold and below, the K1A actually jumps up to the number 1 weapon on defense for gold ranks and below. And it totally makes sense. If you're playing in platinum and above, a lot of times you're going to be playing in 5 stacks that are very efficient at droning. A lot of times you're going to be playing against stacks that will drone for each other. However, when you start looking at gold and below, you start running into players who will only drone for themselves primarily. You're not going to see players in those ranks drone for each other a ton. So if you're Vigil and you're in a room and you just have a one attacker that's outside droning that room for themselves, your gadget is going to be much more effective against that than it will be against a 5 stack that's working together and sending multiple drones your way. So I totally understand, and it makes complete sense to me why the K1A is a top performing weapon for gold ranks and below, because his gadget is much more effective in those ranks. Another benefit of the K1A and Vigil as a whole is that the K1A is one of the easiest weapons to use on defense. And that means that you can slap an angle grip on there if you want to. I still run vertical grip. I like the fact that with vertical grip, it literally has 0 recoil, but you could make a very strong case for why the angle grip is the better play on the K1A. And angle grip is really strong right now. That faster ADS time on a 3-speed roamer is really important. And as I'm sitting here talking about this, I think I might be convincing myself to take off vertical grip and give angle grip another try. But yeah, I mean, the K1A has such little recoil that putting the angle grip on there, it's not like it's sending the gun, with crazy recoil. You're not going to be able to control it. It's still a very easy to manage weapon. And I think that might be the better play for the majority of players out there. A couple more benefits to Vigil that is, again, kind of underrated in all honesty. He's got 2 machine pistol secondary options, the CZ or the SMG-12. Now, both of those weapons have their drawbacks, but I think you have to say that that's a better option than a pistol in most situations. I mean, the SMG-12 has crazy recoil, but at the end of the day, it's a crazy high fire rate, high DPS, and close range weapon. And the CZ is kind of the same story. So yeah, if you run into those situations where you've emptied your mag and you have to pull out your secondary, you will have a crazy high DPS machine pistol available to you while you're going up against somebody on the attacking side that will be pulling out a pistol more than likely. And that's, an added benefit to Vigil. Beyond that, you also add the fact that his gadget also counters Lion. Now, this might be PTSD from the old Lion days, but it feels really good when a Lion scan's going off. You activate his gadget and you just keep sprinting through the map and nothing happens. Like, that is a really good feeling. I know Lion's pick rate isn't as high as it used to be. He's not as strong as he used to be, but still an added benefit to Vigil that, should be mentioned. So I think at the end of the day, here's what you have to say about Vigil. He's a monster. Vigil is a monster when you look at his kit as a whole. He's a 3-speed with a very, very good primary weapon in the K1A. Good secondary options. He's got a gadget that will help you get kills, like directly help you get kills, or just waste a lot of time, both of which are really good situations for your defending team. He's got impacts to help you open up hatches, create rotates, modify the sight. That's a big benefit. Also, keep in mind, I do want to mention he does have the bulletproof camera available, which could, be a really helpful thing. I think that the impacts are going to be the play in most of the situations, but you add all that together and Vigil is a really good operator. And again, he is somebody who has been picked a good bit up to this point, but he should definitely be picked more, and he should be eating into Jager and Mozzie's pick rate to a certain degree. I think that over the next few seasons, you will see some of those Jager Mozzie players gravitate toward Vigil if they are just picking an operator that they want to frag out on. I don't know that there's a better operator on defense to pick if you just want to go on a roam and frag out. Vigil is your man. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Again, let me know what you think. Do you think Vigil's underrated? Do you think you're going to pick more Vigil? If you're somebody who's played a lot of Jaeger, does Vigil interest you right now? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.